It's Dr. Doom.
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the KLIQ Chronicles. All right, let's do this from the top one last time. I am your host, Roddy Cat, and you can find me at Roddy Cat on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me at News Nerds Need. You can also find me at CB Caps and News Nerds Need Reddit. And with me tonight, my man, my fellow Brooklyn's finest, one Agent_70 off of Instagram and Twitter.
What's up, everybody?
And he too was also bitten by a spider. Although he carries a shield, we don't know why that happened. You know,
They are both from Brooklyn, so what are you gonna do?
this is true. This is true.
At least in the MCU. So
Yeah, this is true. Wait, he was from Brooklyn in the comics.
Lower East Side, just like Ben Grimm.
Really?
Yep.
Really? I feel like unless that might be a new thing that he's saying Brooklyn. Yeah, well, yeah, because now that I think about it.
Brooklyn's a new thing.
Right, yeah, I remember him saying it in the last few years. Now that you say that. Anyway, regardless, folks, we're talking about, this is what we're here for. We're talking comics. But before we start talking comics, we will say that I don't know if he's going to show up on the show, but PCN_Dirt is on Twitter under PCN_Dirt, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, IneedStopComics.com. And I know he just got out of we are recording live on a Saturday because Thursday was Into the Spider-Verse and 70 and I went, and also on tonight was the pre-showing of Aquaman, which is a week early thanks to Amazon. And we will talk about all that good mess in a few seconds. But also not with us tonight, and like I said, Dirt may or may not show up, but if he does, hey, I'm happy to have him. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, theclicknation.com, and Comic Book Resources, where he's writing his face off. Go check him out. You can find this podcast on the CSPN Broadcast Network. No, Broadcast Network, don't we wish. CSPN.US.
Do it today.
Exactly. Where you can find this show and many other fine podcasts. We are seemingly an anomaly on that channel, but we still hold our own. But you can also subscribe to this podcast on Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. You can go to the Cold Slither SoundCloud page and find us there. And of course, you can shop.cspn.us at that link I just gave you to get some merch from this fine program and others on the CSPN network. So we are going to get into this. Again, like I just said, Into the Spider-Verse just came out this week. Aquaman comes out next week, but there was a showing tonight. We will be talking spoiler-free, talking about both of those right now. And we're going to start off with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which Agent 70 and I both saw.
Yes. So we ended up catching the movie opening night, and I can tell you that my screening was not well attended. I was very disappointed by that. But I know that the movie is tracking to make a lot of money this weekend, so that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah, it's been doing well. Actually, before it came out here in the States, it was like seemingly doing pretty well from what I understand.
And I think word of mouth is helping it along over the weekend, because watching it on Thursday, opening night, sometimes it's hit or miss for some movies, but it doesn't carry the weight of the more recent MCU.
And I was about to say, Yeah, recent user review, but this one being an animated film also, and probably geared and targeted or directed towards younger folks. That would probably be another reason why it's not,
You know what's funny about that though? It's there, so much of this movie felt like it made more sense to me as a comic book fan, and specifically as a fan of what's been happening in the Spider books over the last 10-15 years. Because I read a review of the movie from a non-comic book person, but someone who takes movie reviews, amateur movie reviews, nothing really professional, but amateur movie reviews very seriously. He's a fellow member of the bar that that actually has a review website, and he just watches lots of movies. And when I read his review, I was kind of shocked, but then I could see that there's just a lot of, more so than in even the live action stuff, there's a lot of inside stuff. There's a lot of inside stuff that if you don't recognize it, won't make a lot of sense to you.
Right. Which, to his credit, for people like us who are comic book fans, like we just, we're all off on that one.
Right.
Yeah, I would imagine too with the normal person, whatever. That would probably, but the film does do fairly decently in cases about bringing stuff up.
Right.
Like obviously it is geared more towards people like us and for younger people, and for younger people. But like I said, in cases it does well to be like, hey, this is that, this, and the others. Everything else is like you don't really need to know that. You just, or you may already know, through some sort of osmosis, even if you've seen other Spider-Man movies. Actually, now that I think about it,
right?
Yeah, you got enough of a knowledge that we won't even insult you by doing all of this extra stuff.
I mean, broad strokes, we're dealing with the cinematic telling or version of Miles's origin, and
but there is some glimmers of comic book origins in there.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it's something completely different.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm just saying it's the cinematic version of it,
sure.
And it basically adapts the Spider-Verse event and molds that into something that ties into Miles's origin.
Right. Which I think was pretty decently done.
It was a good move.
Yeah.
It was a good move because what they can't do is show how the character has evolved. How the character gets from point A, where he doesn't know anything about being a spider person, to point B. And using the Spider-Verse, a version of the Spider-Verse event as a catalyst for that made a whole lot of sense.
I mean, the other way they could have gone with that, and I'm not saying that it needs to be changed. Like obviously, Spider-Gwen,
right,
regularly came out of Spider-Verse, so they could have gone the other way and be like, well, this is centered around her and that. But again, it seemed like this was a better fit, or this was as good a fit.
Sure,
to do that with.
Sure, and without spoiling too much, there's there's a lot of fun to be had. Do you have something that you would really stress as one of the finer points of the movie, and maybe one of the low points, or something that you were kind of critical of? Because I can think of like one of each for myself.
Honestly, I can't really think of much critical, now that you say that. And I've been spending the last couple of days off and on kind of thinking about the movie and seeing, like, there's articles out there, so for people trying to be spoiler free,
right?
There are articles out there about the end credits and Easter eggs and that kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully you will know to avoid those.
Right.
But, I don't know. I kind of like the way Miles kind of came into it. There was probably, I think, part if I had any critical part about it would go back to his origin anyway, and Bendis's handling of it. But actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not even true. That's not partly true. because they kind of did something in there. It's like, yeah, if I don't know if it actually played out like that in his actual origin, and I can't really without saying
Right,
that. I don't
without spoiling too much. Okay,
There's a part that seemed like, that sounds like something Bendis would have done if he didn't actually do it.
right. So without getting too spoilery, what I really loved about the movie was actually the incorporation of 90s hip hop into it.
I thought about you
Biggie in there, and I was like, "What?"
I thought directly of you when they hit. I was like, "Oh shoot!"
So that was pretty awesome. That brought a big smile to my. I just couldn't stop beaming. But the low point for me was actually, and this is, I'll ring the spoiler bell. It doesn't really touch on a plot point, but I'll ring the spoiler bell. Was how they did Gonki.
Yeah, I once again I thought about you when that happened.
And I understood, and I understand why, because there's just so many characters in this.
But
the way they did them, I was like, damn.
Yeah, like, yeah.
You know, because we already have like a version of Gonki in Homecoming.
Action, yeah.
As Ned.
There's probably a nod to that. I think there's a nod to that in there somewhere, or at least according to one article I read, there's a nod to it. Right. But yeah,
I'd love to talk about this without in full, but we have a lot to get to.
And I feel like we can revisit this some other time when the movie is out.
Yeah, exactly. We could do like a whatchamacallit, a special edition, a treasury edition where we talk about the movie at length and kind of delve deeper into this. But you can tell from my, I thought about what I liked and didn't like, and those are the kind of the ones that were least spoilery.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised. I saw like Leonard Maltin liked it. And that there are some actual critics. Although Maltin, to be fair, he's a little lenient on certain stuff. Like I'm pretty sure if Ebert was still around or Cisco, whatever, whichever one would have been like, But I don't know. I've seen some critical, or at least parts of some critical reviews that were pretty good. I'm like, and people who are obvious fans of comic books were digging on it also. Like I said, I was like, personally, it lived up to the hype for me, so I was happy for it.
No, I definitely enjoyed myself, and I'm probably gonna have plans to watch it again with the different.
I was about to say that too. I was like, I am
set of friends,
yeah. I am seriously.
Some friends are like, we're gonna go watch this, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay.
So yeah, but that being that case, like I said, we don't want to get too far into spoiler territory.
Exactly.
We'll probably bring up something in the news about it at the very least. But I pretty much mentioned what I would bring up anyhow. Right. So with that, I'm going to quickly talk about Aquaman. Agent 7 hasn't seen it yet. There was a showing tonight at the time of this recording, Saturday night.
Yeah, I chose not to partake in the Amazon offer.
I'm happy at that. So I basically got it for free because I had some Amazon credits. So I was like, woo! All right.
There you go.
So yes, there was a screening tonight. I missed apparently they started on time. So most movies you have at least a good block of trailers before the movie started. And when I got there probably 5 minutes till, but the fucking concession sign was long. So by the time I actually got into the theater, it was like 5 or 8 after, and it already started. So I think I missed something. Certainly, I don't know. I don't know how much I missed, but
probably not too much. But
yeah. So when it came in, shit was already jumping off. But nevertheless, yeah,
and obviously, due to our late start time, we are out of prime time. So Roddy has already started with the.
Nothing right. Yeah, we're. It is not a Thursday, and we are. Yeah,
not in primetime television, ladies and gents.
So, and
we do have the
I'm not bleeping this out.
We do have the adult language content warning on the show. So, but yeah, that's that's kind of a good warning. But I think by the time the rest of us normies go to see it,
yeah,
we'll have plenty of trailers to sit through.
Yeah, more than likely, because like I said, if there were any trailers, it must have happened like right before 7 or at the time. Because like there's no way in the world it could have been. Because normally it's usually like a good 10 minutes, a good 10-20 minutes of trailers. So that didn't happen. I was kind of shocked and slightly upset about that, but partially my fault, but more to the
more to the long lines.
But regardless, I will say this, and I'm just going to repeat what I said earlier from my tweet and say that, one, just noted that Aquaman is a reminder that Mera should have been in Injustice 2, which is the fighting game. If you're a video game person, she should have been in there because she would have been a great addition. And from what I understand, people have been bucking for it for a couple of years now, since the first Injustice. So that should tell you something about the movie itself, partially. And also that the movie bears and wears its influences kind of nicely, including those of the director. So this is a James Wan joint. So you being a fan, and I'm not saying this is direct or not about what you might find in this movie, but some people might know him from his horror work.
Right.
Some people might know him from, like yourself and myself, from the Fast and Furious movies that he's done a couple, right?
No, I think he only did one.
He's done one. Which one? Did he do 5?
No, that was Justin Lin. So Justin Lin is the one that kind of reinvented the franchise with 4, right? So
which one did he do?
Justin Lin did Tokyo Drift, and then they brought him back for 4, 5, 6.
Wait, am I tripping? Did James Wan actually do? And I'm screwing around.
He did do one.
That's what I thought.
He did do one. I think he did 8 actually. Come to think of it.
Okay, so I haven't seen 8 yet, so I don't know. So I will say he may have taken a slight bit of.
He did Furious 7. Sorry, Furious 7. It was 7 that he did.
So he's doing 7. He did 7. Okay.
He did 7. Somebody else did 8.
Okay. So that was F. Gary Gray. Did they go back to him for 8?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So I will say that there could be some influence. That being said, still with at least one scene, which has been out there on trailer, there's been scenes of, so I'm not really necessarily spoiling over, that might take a little bit of influence or inspiration from a part of one of those movies, and that's why I was thinking it was him that did 5, and that's why I'm saying that specifically.
They dragging a safe?
No, because
that's what everyone remembers.
True, but no, not that one.
Jumping down the favelas.
Wait, hold on for a second. Like, and I might be wrong about which one. So was it 5 that The Rock was in, right? The first one The Rock was in?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm right. Okay. So yes. I stand behind what I just said.
Yeah. Jumping down the favelas is a popular thing too. So
that's okay. Hold that thought. Yes.
Okay. See, I've seen this movie so many times I can kind of imagine what you might be referring to.
Yes. So, but then again, like I said, some of that stuff's kind of been out there. There's been trailers that had some of that stuff in there, so I'm not really necessarily spoiling that much. So if you've seen those, then you can kind of get what I'm talking about. Regardless, outside of that, like I said, it's wearing the influences fairly decently. Some spots more than others. It's definitely fun. It's definitely got it's definitely action packed. And as Doug Dirt said, it's comic accurate in a lot of spots.
That's pretty cool.
And even if you don't have very much knowledge, like we were talking before the show, if your knowledge of Aquaman comes from the animated version,
like Justice League Unlimited or Justice League,
probably less that, but more classics. Well, yeah, a little bit of that, and probably in a way Super Friends.
Okay.
Not in a they're playing it serious, but still yet you can still be like, okay, hey, I know this. And we have shown and you've seen the suit, so you know that they're kind of going for it. So that being said, yeah, it was good. I would also say that I would probably go back and see this, and I don't think I'm not sure that the couple of misses I missed would be anything up to what leading up to what I came in on. I can imagine what happened, but I may not have gotten the gist of that, but I still would probably say I could possibly go and see this again.
No kidding. Well, only to just catch the first 8 minutes of the movie, right?
That and just for the fact that I'm like, nah, it was actually,
pretty impressive. Okay.
Yeah, like the movie has a budget. They've been putting putting money behind the last couple of movies, and it's kind of showed. Like there's probably a spot or two where some effects seem a little,
They probably skimped here to spend more there, something like that.
Maybe, but nevertheless, overall, it's. And I would also go as far as to say, like, I could.
Well, did they pull off the talking underwater thing? I know you've had some issues with that recently in comics. So
yeah, but at least with them, you can see it. They're, of course, there's talking underwater, and they don't really make too much about that, but yeah, it works. But again, like I said, with the Avengers thing, that doesn't make any kind of sense.
Gotcha.
But this, yeah, it totally fits. So, and I could see, and again, this is probably more my influence than probably the movies, but you could kind of see some. I think Dirt had mentioned, actually, to go by what he says, or what he said in the chat. He says this movie is Tron Legacy meets Lord of the Rings meets Godzilla. And I say that, yeah, that kind of tracks. I would probably replace Tron Legacy with, like I was going to say, probably more recent Star Wars and or Thor Ragnarok, actually.
Okay.
But everything else, yeah, kind of track. Maybe the Godzilla, there's even a touch of, and again, James Wan has done horror, so there is even a little bit of
horror.
Not necessarily horror, but you can see where you can he's done. If he's done some stuff, then you can see kind of some
touches, maybe
touches here and there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
But there's no serious horror elements. I thought so. But yeah, it was like once you get to this one part, I'm like, yeah, okay. Especially if you know him. So that being said, without going any further and potentially getting into any spoilers unknowingly, yeah, I enjoyed it. It comes out next week for everybody else for everybody else to see it. And I would definitely say, actually, going back to what you were saying about the people in the theater, it was actually pretty. It wasn't full, but it was a good bunch of people. And actually, in my going back to Into the Spider-Verse, my show in there was actually fairly decently packed. Because again, I went to 8 because there was an 8 and a 5 for the version I went to, because I went to the standard version. So I don't know when you went. I know you went roughly around the same time, but
right, it was early evening, 7-ish, but it was IMAX 3D.
Okay, see, I didn't do that one. Actually, what was funny was when I looked at the tickets for that, I saw the tickets for that, and I was going through the motion until I found out, wait a minute, this is 3D. And I didn't, and I don't, folks know I don't do 3D.
Okay.
I backed out of that. But when I looked at it, when I went to the seats, like there were a bunch of available seats for the 3D version. So that may or may not say anything, because when I got the tickets for those for Into the Spider-Verse, like I said, it was, it was actually 2 days ago. So
I was happy to see though that there was, that there was a family sitting in front of me.
Right.
And, I actually told the oldest kid was a daughter, and I told her, "Hey, I just checked online. There's a end credit scene." So she went to go tell her dad, and they came back to watch the end credit scene.
Right.
Spoiler, mild spoiler.
Which at this, which is kind of funny, because you would think as many superhero movies that we had, animated or not, or actually most of them have not been animated, you would think people have been a little bit more conditioned to stay around. But even in the Aquaman one, which luckily it doesn't have an end credit scene, but it does kind of have a mid-ish credit scene. So take note of that. And there were a couple of people got out, but most of the majority of people say, hell, people are staying for Star Wars credits. I mean, for the end of Star Wars credits now, and that has no bearing on that stuff.
Well, I was about to say, luckily, with previews and stuff, they do put, you can find stuff like that online real quick. Like you see everyone whip their phones out to see if it's worth sitting around. So,
yeah. So, like to take note of that. But but it has been a good week for movies. I will say that.
Alrighty, that works. Alrighty, so I guess we're going to talk about the first books
we are
review this week, and we're actually going to cover one of the small mini events over at Marvel, and that's the Defenders of mini event, the Best Defense. And
I was going to tweet out about this and say that I remember a time where we would get like 11 whole months of an actual story in comics before an event. I remember those days. You're of a certain vintage. You remember those days. I miss those days.
Once a year.
Yeah. Like 11 months out of it was like, oh no, we got story. And now we just got, even though they said no big events for 16 months, that still doesn't seem like.
This is a mini event though. This does not fall into the category of the,
but it's still an event.
Up until this point, not all that it's kind of underwhelming. It's Infinity Warps and War, like the latest version of this. So
you started.
Yeah. So but back to this though. Let's start with Doctor Strange, the Best Defense #1. There's actually kind of a pretty gruesome aspect to this issue that starts right off the bat. You're just kind of like, ew.
Kind of. I will say, so this, I just remember something. This is basically jumping ahead slightly. This is the second time we see in an event where the Hulk's head becomes a factor. Because I remember correctly, Age of Ultron from a few years ago had a scene where the Hulk's head just happens to be a factor. Actually, it doesn't have to be a factor, but it just happens to be there. And I was like, huh, weird. So, but yeah, so in this one, we talked about the Hulk. Speaking of the Immortal Hulk issue, which was the first one that came out last week, or the first of the two that came out last week. This kind of comes off of that, but also goes into that.
Right. This is kind of a precursor to that.
Yes, for the most part, which is weird, but it kind of works. Now, before we go any further, they in the back of the books, and we've talked about this before the show, that they said you can read these 4 books in any order, and then the Defenders book next week will be like the end of it. So I'm hoping we're going to get a nice fat info dump for some of that stuff, for some of the stuff that's going on then. Also worth noting, you know what? We'll get to it in a minute actually, but so this is. Well, one, we were right for 2 reasons, and that old Doctor Strange was the person that shows up at the end of Immortal Hulk, and it kind of goes from there into this. As to kind of sort of how he got to that point,
right?
And then obviously, like I said, you can wrap back around and read Immortal Hulk and see what happened with that, which is still doesn't make a whole lot of sense because none of these books really tie in that closely, except for the one page that has as you Agent 70 said, the ghost who stabs.
The ghost who stabs.
Yeah. So, and I believe that part, like I said in my notes, needs to be the one that pays off, because if that doesn't, I'm gonna be really upset.
Right. And I would think at this point that that's got to pay off, because now we're dealing with just one last issue of this mini event. So, but just again, we find out how Doctor Strange, at least in this story, has gotten to the point where he is the last defender, literally, of the Earth. And something catastrophic has happened, and he's trying to create a way to undo this catastrophic event.
Mm-hmm. And as it tends to be, looks like some time travel. So, and this is probably also the point where I should mention that there was an article. In fact, I will put it up on the screen right now real quickly. There was an article from Marvel, which I'm kind of wondering if they actually did this on purpose. I would imagine they did, called "The Spells of Doctor Strange: The Concordance Engines."
Okay.
And it says revisit when the Defenders reunited with the Master of Mystic Art. So this was a series from 3-4 years ago, fraction run with Terry and Rachel Dodson doing, as you can tell about the picture. And this basically comes right off of Fear Itself. And from Fear Itself, there was a person creature that came out of that has been dealing with the Hulk during their friends. Fear Itself, by the way, also Fraction's event. So there's a lot of he's using a lot of his own stuff in the series, including Immortal Iron Fist and some of the mortal weapons. So that kind of comes into play. That being said, really quickly, this new event, this little mini event, maybe taking beats off of that, possibly including the jump to the pause, as they called it, the first issues. They may be taking some beats from Max from Fraction's run of this, including the said concordance issue engines, which maybe I believe they've brought up, and if not this one, they did in Silver Surfer, one of the two. They brought it up in, so that's probably a callback to this run. So if you have those books, or if you have Marvel Unlimited, excuse me, sorry, you can go back to read the Defenders from 2011. It's only 12 issues. I look, I was selling Agent 70 before the show. Like, I kind of breezed through at least 7 of them, and yeah, I can see some ties, but it's still really disjointed.
Okay.
So, because they kind of go other places, but they kind of go back regardless. But back to the Beck's Defense books. Are we finished with Doctor Strange? Because I think the most we've said is like, hey, it basically wraps back around to the Immortal Hulk one, and then
exactly. I mean, that's all we really need to talk about, because it's worth. If you're going to read this, you're going to read all 4 of these. Thankfully, it really boils down to very loosely connected stories, but this one was actually pretty entertaining, on its own, without any real concern to how it connects. But then we wrap around to the point where it does connect.
Right. And with that, we go into Silver Surfer, the Best Defense #1, which is seemingly in a similar time period. We don't necessarily know what time period it is, because now that I've been thinking about it, Silver Surfer himself is kind of, actually, I take it back. We kind of do. This seems like it was a similar time period. Actually, no.
Bear in mind, this one actually seems like it's happening in current continuity, because
you're right.
I would remind you that the Surfer has reverted back to being the Herald of Galactus.
I mentioned that. Yeah. See, I was gonna. That's which is why I was mentioning that. But
like once you have that knowledge, you can kind of figure out, especially based on how this book ends.
Right. But and I was about to step over myself when I was saying that too, because I just thought about the fact that yes, that was the case, and not only that, but yeah, it has to be current, because I was thinking the Galactus in this book looks a lot more worn, but then again, that could be because of hunger or whatever.
Right. I think that's how they often portray when he's
right. And because it's not set anywhere near Earth, and seemingly, it seemed like there was there was a time jump, but apparently not, because yeah, we see Surfer on this planet. These people are trying to get away. There's a Yondu light figure. Actually, I thought Yondu showed up. Because of a person that showed up in it, but there's like a short version of a Centaurian that I don't know if they play a part, but they're there.
Right. There's a couple of that particular. I think it's whatchamacallit. It's a father-daughter pair, if I'm not mistaken.
At some point, but yeah, more so the daughter than the father or whatever yeah. So that being said, like I said, the Surfer's on this planet, and then I guess
something happens to this planet where that kind of wraps into what this crossover is about, and what ends up happening to this planet is that they're all trying to leave. They're all trying to leave because like all the inhabitants of the planet are trying to leave because they've kind of caught wind that Galactus is on its way.
Right. But at the same time, it seemed like they were also leaving because of, which could tie back to the series that I was talking about, with some similar things happening, where they also may have been trying to run away from not just from Galactus, but the ending of their spot in the universe, or the universe.
Right. Well, what's happening, like with the, there's the connective tissue between the Doctor Strange book and this book is a little stronger,
yes,
than in Hulk and Namor were.
Yes. Although this does kind of wraps back around to the Namor one, to at least at the end of the Namor one.
Right. Because there's something called the Train. And that's what Strange is working to prevent. And that is the reason why people need to leave this planet, because apparently this train has already wreaked havoc on this planet, but left it intact, but in such a weakened state that there's no way that they could do anything against something. I mean, most planets can't, even at their strongest, against Galactus.
And so this, again, I'm gonna say this one, hopefully probably final time, is also where, because there is a mention of it. In fact, there is a train that ends up that plays a small part of the beginning of that Defenders run that I mentioned. But that was kind of dealt with fairly decently. Well, it's not fairly decent, but fairly quickly. And then the focus kind of goes into these engines. That show up, which I believe they mentioned. They may have mentioned an engine along with the train, and or at least when Galactus and the Surfer were talking, they might have actually mentioned the engine and or the train as well. So that could be the other tie back to this other Defenders run, or at least the same in a way, because like it seemed like a callback. Which there was a callback to something we just never knew. We never knew what it was,
right?
And this normally they would have at least had a footnote, but like, hey, you might want to check out this, that, and the other, or something like that. But they didn't do that. And of course, we still have that other Ghost Who Stabs thing that still doesn't. That
still makes no sense, right?
Well, it does and it doesn't, because if it does. It does not for the ghost. It may from where that ghost is, and what and things around it, possibly. And again, may possibly tie back to that Defenders thing. I can't confirm, but because it still seems like I don't remember. There was no ghost that showed up in it so far, and so that has, that the whole part right there is just weird. So hopefully, again, there's one more book left to bring this back on home, and that is the Defenders book next week, I believe. Wait,
yes, I believe it's next week.
Yes, which hopefully will tie everything back up nicely and neatly. But I'm kind of on the mind of, you know what, this whole thing has been kind of disjointed. Like, yeah, there's been a couple of good reads here and there. But it's still kind of disjointed, and if that if the Ghost Fruit stab thing and all this doesn't get tied up, I'm going to be upset.
Sure.
It would have wasted our time.
Yeah, I sympathize. I definitely agree with that.
So with that,
all right, we have a lot of books to go through, so we may actually just start rapid firing everything.
Yeah, we definitely have a couple that we have both read together, or not together, but us.
Yeah, no, we both have these mutually read books this week. You want to talk Champions real quick, just to wrap up that?
Champions, yes.
All right. So this is the wrap up issue to this D&D based storyline.
I don't want to say it falls flat because it doesn't, but it kind of wrapped up a little too neatly.
I think I agree with you simply because I was kind of taken aback at how quickly it wrapped.
Yes.
Very quickly, the champions found themselves in Weird World, transformed into D&D type characters, and the way they are reverted back, it seems very convenient. Happens very quickly.
Yes.
But it's definitely related to Crystar and the Crystal Warriors, which kind of gave me a something to cheer about.
And as I said in my notes, was like, well, if you're playing IP bingo, you got another check mark.
Exactly.
We do see a brief panel appearance by Black Knight and whoever the other person was.
Yeah, other denizens of Weird World. I think that's whatchamacallit, not Thundra.
No, yeah, Thundra definitely, or what's Thundra?
Yeah, I think that is Thundra.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking about her. I was thinking about the other person. But regardless,
the dude with the lightning bolts. I know what you're talking about. Totally forgot.
No, was it? Wait, he didn't show up.
No, but he's in one of those panels.
Is he?
Yeah,
I didn't pay any attention then. Apparently,
he's above the guy with the red antlers, who I think is supposed to be somebody too.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking of the person with the red antler. Okay, well, regardless, yeah, Denizens of Weird World, which yeah, sure, it is what it is on that part.
Right.
So yeah, that gets all nice and neatly wrapped up, and the champions are back on Earth. I was hoping, or slightly kind of expecting Sam to get his powers back, but that didn't happen. And it seemed like, and I may be wrong, because this was already, as far as I know, this was always slated to be 3 issues. So we can't say it was rushed on that front. And apparently, because of the end of this book, they're starting again with a new number 1.
Right.
Next month, or is it next month? I think it's next month. Yeah, next month, because it did say 2019 or next year. So this was just basically ending this run.
Yeah, this volume at least.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we all know why comic book companies restart things at number 1. I don't know how this book was selling. I'd have to look it up.
I remember Champions. Well, before the change of writers, as far as I know, because at least the beginning, it was doing pretty decently when it came out. So yeah, I don't know at the end of it, but apparently it's doing some good because they're bringing it back
right away.
Yes.
So no, that's
something.
Right, that's a good point.
But that being said, like I said, it was kind of, like I said, it kind of ended. Like we find the champions back on Earth in a place. They actually, the funny part about it was like, hey, Miss Marvel gets this idea of like, hey, I got a team building idea. Let's play D&D. As if we come out of a D&D thing already. But yeah, Sam didn't get his powers back. In fact, I think they took him home, and everybody else just kind of, had thoughts and feelings. And especially, speaking of thoughts and feelings, some feelings came out, or something came out between Viv and Riri.
Right.
So I don't know if that's going to get addressed again. But like I said, it just kind of ended, just like all nice and neat, and ended up.
Well, I would say yes and no, because it's not neat in the sense that the book actually ends with a disturbing cliffhanger, and it says basically that there's a phase 2 to a plan coming up. So it's not that there's an end. Right. It's not that there's an end to the stories, but there's definitely an end to this storyline of whatchamacallit, D&D related shenanigans.
Because the fact that that last page was something that was brought up before this happened, and they only touched upon it. They didn't touch upon it obviously anytime during these last 2-3 issues, right? But beforehand, they kind of touched on it like once or twice, and it was like, okay,
here and there, it's kind of like in the background, right? So
right. So it seemed like they kind of left that loop in there just to kind of say, all right, pop, and then they're gonna, which still seems kind of weak, but at the same time, because I'm thinking it's been 3 issues, and I don't know how many people remembers that even anything happening with that.
It's definitely more of a trade thing, Like if you're reading these issues consecutively, I think it probably plays a lot better.
Yeah. So, but outside of that, like I said, we are done with this chapter or this volume of the Champions, and we'll be back next year with what that is.
Alrighty. Next up, amongst the books that we read, let's cover the another big team book, Avengers number 11, real quick.
Yes.
So this served to continue a lot of the story threads that have been laid out in the past few issues. I thought it was pretty cool that we basically open with a quick explanation of the cliffhanger ending of the previous issue. That is, it's not an explanation, but it's actually a continuation,
right?
And after we leave that, essentially, the big strokes of the book are continuing developments between Thor and She-Hulk, aka Jennifer Walters, and T'Challa, using some aspects of his role as Wakanda's chief diplomat, and using that that particular tactic, on the superhero front.
And smartest man in the room, as in his use of dealing with someone who's at this meeting, and the use of Tony's armor, which I thought was kind of funny.
Right.
So, but yeah, and like you said, we kind of get some more on the events of the end of last issue. We find out something that the Avengers don't yet know about on that front also. There's a couple of things on that front, so the reader is slightly ahead of the game, or at least on point. We don't know. Excuse me. So, spoilers: Coulson's back from the dead.
Right.
And I mentioned that
because, the bell, but
yeah. Well, you think you did earlier, so.
Not this. But go on.
That's fine. But I would say that's playing a part, and he has brought a team with him, but he's also a different Coulson from before his death, and he's definitely slightly different from. He's not that. He's a little different from his live action small screen and or big screen version, let's say. But then again, he all kind of was. The comic version was kind of already. So we found out he's back from the dead, and he has a new outlook on things. He's also
definitely a new agenda.
Yes, which gets brought up during the course of this issue, and he's talking to someone, which I thought was somebody we knew, and they were going to bring that up. And this is one reason I'm bringing it up now, and I don't know if we ever will. But it's somebody he's had dealings with that knew that apparently that worked with the Avengers and himself, and that ended up going a certain way. So it's almost as if like was Jason Aaron is adding some new elements going on here, with that. So I thought it was interesting to bring that up for that, especially introducing a different Coulson than we used to, if you know anything about the character.
Sure.
Using actually his death, as a springboard, I guess.
Right. So, all right.
The thing was, I thought so. The only other thing I would say about that, the thing, the She-Hulk Thor thing was going a certain way up until that last bit with them. I was like, oh shit, go ahead, Thor. But I'm like, that was a good save. But outside of that, I was like, yeah, okay.
It was pretty funny. Yeah. And last among the books that both of us read this week is Black Panther #7. And I gotta tell you, this was actually, despite the fact that we're still not 100% sure how this is connected to anything that's happening in the present day.
I'm just embracing the ride at this point.
What's that?
I said I'm just embracing the ride at this point.
What I was gonna say is this was at least entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
This was by far one of the more entertaining issues in this whole story arc.
Right. This seems like, as my notes would say, Star Wars Black Panther edition. This seems more along going further down that route than it has in that last volume or in that last arc than this. So it's kind of interesting. There is definitely some seemingly Star Wars like beats going on in this issue. And I guess if you think back, probably in the whole, may or may not have been what he's going for, but it is a thing. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it for that.
It was just an enjoyable, like kind of one issue, where there's elements of action and intrigue and political unrest, and a familiar alien race and some more familiar alien races. So
yes, and a familiar beats of a franchise,
right?
In a way, which is what I've already said just now. So
exactly. That I understand.
Yeah, but and I don't want to, I don't want to take away from what he's trying to do or whatever the case may be. But it would be hard for us to read this book, much less the last volume, and not think of the correlation.
Sure. And and I think that the difficulty that we've kind of had trying to figure out how it all fits, like you said, we just sort of have to put that aside and kind of wait for it to all come together, because this is just another big chunk of story. This is what part 2 of his story. So we're definitely dealing with the long form story where a lot is going to happen before it all comes together, so that we can understand how it fits into the bigger Black Panther picture.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much that. I feel like, did you not read Fantastic Four Wedding Special?
I skimmed it. It's bachelor party stuff. So
basically,
you can talk about it. I mean, I read it if you want to talk about it.
Basically summed it up. So yeah, just to go ahead and get out of the way. And I guess, I don't know, or we are rapidly firing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll spin it up.
Oh yeah, like you said, Fantastic Four Wedding Special is basically three stories. There was some bachelor party stuff. There's not a throughput in it actually, because I was thinking there's from one story to another there is, but and that last Hembeck joint, like, yeah, you can see where that one is kind of sort of coming off of the one in the middle. But that being said, it's like, yeah, Sue and friends take Alicia to her bachelorette party, while Johnny's supposed to be planning something for Ben, and I'm guessing we're not going to see that. Are we going to see that in the Fantastic Four proper? I guess, yeah. So that's going to be taken care of that elsewhere, and then like I said, we see another story where Ben goes to ask the puppet masters, aka Alicia's dad, stepdad, or adopted dad, whatever the case may be, marriage, and that goes a certain way. But there is something I wanted to bring that up real quick, because I wonder if there's going to be something that's going to be brought up from that.
The twist?
Yes, at the end.
It's an interesting twist.
Yeah. I'm like, huh, weird, interesting. But that said, and then there was another Fred Hembeck written and drawn story that is.
That was a nice change of pace because I haven't seen like a modern Fred Hembeck strip in a while. So that was
so, and that was just like focused on the I guess the puppet master's inner dialogue or whatever the case may be. But so that was neat and cool to see.
all right. Okay, so let's rapid fire through the rest of these books because we both have a lot of stuff to cover. Let me run through what I've got. Amazing Spider-Man number 11. This, one of the cool things about one of the big developments in the Spidey universe, I've talked about it before, is that J. Jonah Jameson now knows who Spider-Man is. And he's now actively trying to create support for Spider-Man. One, by becoming a shock jock and promoting Spider-Man and his good works on the radio. And it's pretty interesting. It's a definitely a pretty interesting idea. But also,
it's also an idea that comes from the recent video game.
No, it predates the video game.
Huh?
Oh, in terms of J. Jonah Jameson being a shock jock.
Right. Yes. Gotcha. Now, granted, it's going the other way from how he was in said.
Right.
But it's definitely, as a matter of fact, they have even said as much. There's been articles saying as much. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much taken from that.
Sure. So, based off of this increased publicity, certain factions in New York City are moving against Jameson, and that's where this book is going. So there's that. As Guardians of the Galaxy number 4, this is actually there's been some really entertaining stuff, and we're trying to figure out what Loki is trying to get at. Nebula is all of a sudden, shown herself to be on par with dealing with a group of Asgardians, because she's basically creating an army, her own army of the dead, but instead of just the Walking Dead, we're talking about the godly Walking Dead. So that's a pretty formidable force. Batman Damn number 2. So there isn't the large amount of controversy in this book that came from Batman Damn number 1, but there's still some controversial aspects to the book. And I'm sorry?
They took that stuff out because there was supposed to be some more of the quote unquote controversy in this book, from what I remember saying.
Well, there's also some. Well, there's some instead of naked bits. What we have is something lifted from a controversial part of The Killing Joke, and it's almost beat for beat. So that's pretty interesting to read, however many years later. So there's that. Let's see, we did Black Panther, did Champions, Doctor Strange. All right, very broad strokes. Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 1. I'm not going to spoil this because Roddy Cat wants to read it, but we have a slightly fresh start with Miles. This is Saladin Ahmed and Javier Garron, I think, doing the art, and it's a very current events laden start to the story, and there's a twist on a villain and his possible motivations in the story. A traditional villain, but there's a twist on his motivations in the story, and it's pretty interesting to see where we go from here. It's a promising start to a new status quo, or at least an updated status quo for Miles. Peter Parker, Spider-Man number 313. This wraps the side story for Spider-Man during who's it? Spider-Geddon. Peter takes care of, without excuse me, should hit the cough button. Without going too far into this, Peter takes care of the inheritor that he is tasked with dealing with, and essentially, we're finally going to see the this particular Spider-Man step back into the Spider-Geddon event after basically taking off, the first 4 issues of the miniseries. So the series is about to end with number 5, and it seems like all the Spider-Man analogs that have survived to this point are about to bring that particular story to a close. Spider Force number 3 is also the ending of one of the side spin-off series for Spider-Geddon, and we finally get this issue that's a little out of order. The ending of this issue ties into the beginning of, I believe it was Spider-Geddon number 4. So this is finally out, so we kind of see how we get to that point. And finally, I pulled my joke about the Ghost Who Stabs from the Batman Who Laughs. And the Batman Who Laughs number 1 is a series by Scott Snyder with art by Jock that basically deals with the unleashing by Lex Luthor of the Batman Who Laughs on the DC universe proper. And Batman and the Joker kind of realize what's going on after the Batman Who Laughs actually makes an attempt on the Joker's life, and the Joker hatches a plan unbeknownst to Batman, and we see the beginning stages of the Joker's plan to take out the Batman Who Laughs at the end of this issue, and it's pretty shocking. So we'll see where we go in issue 2. This is a pretty good cliffhanger.
Cool. Which leaves my books, starting with Bitterroot number 2, which I was kind of glossing at before we got started with this, and there so this is kind of going off of the events of the first issue, in that there was actually a couple of things were going on at the end of that book. Like there were a couple of attacks being made, but one of which may or may not be by the creatures that they think they are, and then another one is kind of being orchestrated by some folks trying to do some things, and this is just kind of continuation of that. One of the family members may have come into some problems from said attack, and we'll see what happens after that. Titans number 31, which I feel like we didn't talk about this one, but we mentioned about the last issue that Kyle Rayner saves the Titans from wherever they were. So they were back on Earth. The events of drowned Earth has already been taken care of, so they don't have that to deal with anymore. Apparently, Kyle Rayner is now temporarily with the group in absence of Nightwing, and Donna Troy is leading the group, and they have been retasked, repurposed, and into their original mission. But now it looks like they're going on to the side mission to dealing with Raven's. Well, it might also help with what's going on with Raven at the same time. And there was something that happened with Beast Boy that was real crazy, and may possibly be going directed with the Red. If you know what that is, I still don't. Star Wars: Age of the Republic, Darth Maul number 1. Hey, guess what, folks? It's another one shot with a Star Wars character, and this one seems like it's because if I remember correctly, there was a Darth Maul miniseries from last year, probably, and this seems to be a few memories of that set in the same time period, but it really doesn't do anything to further any kind of story.
Okay.
I mean, it is a part. I guess it is a chunk of a story, but like I said, it kind of leans on the fact that hey, there was another miniseries already, slightly, but so there's really nothing really of value to it outside of just like, hey, it's another story with Darth Maul, and he got in some stuff on Coruscant. Daughters of the Dragon number 2. So this is the Marvel Originals, aka the Comixology digital first stuff that is out there. I talked about the last one for a couple weeks ago. I don't remember what it was, and it's like so it's 3 issues with 2 chapters in each one. So because it's digital first, and they'll put it out on print later on. This one was a little bit better than that last one, I think, and that's probably because I had time to sit with that last one. I'm still having really some concerns with Colleen's characterization, but story-wise, you know, it was still what it was. You got a visit from Nick Fury Jr., and the ladies helped them with some stuff. And of course, if you know anything about any kind of Fury, he's, you know, especially cinematically, there was an agenda in there. But it was all fun, and it was good. Goddess Mode #1. So this is a new #1 from DC Vertigo, I believe. Written by one Zoe Quinn. And it shows. So if you don't know who Zoe Quinn is, she is a video game developer, and she who came into some notes a couple of years ago with Gamergate for some things that happened there. But apparently she's writing this comic book now, and I'm not sure if she's still doing any developing. But this, speaking of books that kind of have some Tron like substance to it, this kind of seems like what if the Master Control program is running the place, but you know, there's some things going on behind the scenes, especially with the company which the young lady is working for behind the scenes. Specifically, there's a virus that the controlling AI of this world can't seem to do anything with, and the young lady who's the protagonist, his father has been struggling with it, and as well as a few other people, including the people who made, including a couple of people like her dad and the CEO of the company who made said AI. But regardless of that, she gets swept into said AI world, which is kind of Tron-like, and she meets up with these few other people. So there is definitely a little bit of Tron-like mystic thing. I would say Tron with a little bit of Magical Girl, but I'm not sure if that would hold up quite nicely. But there is definitely some Tron-like businesses. You can tell this was definitely made by a person who has worked in the video game. Interesting. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, you might want to check it out. It's, I don't know, I will definitely check out the next issue, but we'll see how it goes from there. And last but not least, Sasquatch Detective Special #1. So this is, again, like I said before we started the show, and so on, it's not really again for you folks, but so Sasquatch Detective is about it's about a Sasquatch who leaves her family in the woods to go to be a detective in the police force, specifically the LAPD, because she was watching TV with her family, and you know, somebody from the LAPD was like, yeah, we'll take anybody, we'll even take a Sasquatch. So she kind of got it in her because she's been wanting to leave and get out in the world anyway, just to kind of, it's like, hey, guess what, we're out here kind of stuff. It's kind of like what was that show? I want to say Dinosaurs, but not really, because this is technically supposedly taking place in the DC universe proper, because she runs into Wonder Woman, Catwoman. They've referenced Superman early on in the book, but it's kind of light-hearted, so it's not really, you know, like she's really good at being a police, because you know, she's sat and watched like a whole bunch of Law and Order and kind of stuff like that, and plus she's a Sasquatch, so she's plenty strong, and it's kind of the funny part about it is like she's gone on, like they talk about some of the cases she's done and gone undercover, which she's a Sasquatch, so I can't imagine how undercover you could be as a Sasquatch, but apparently it worked out some kind of way. So that being said, her name is Tanya Lightfoot, and she got her name from a certain skater of certain note, if you're of a certain vintage. Yeah, take that for what it is. But again, like I said, it's pretty light-hearted, and it's worth noting that I believe this special is made up of a backstory that they made up for this issue, and a bunch of side stories that were in, I think, the Snagglepuss miniseries that happened. So there were backup stories in that particular book, and they put all that together and made this. So I'm not going to sit here and say this all ages because it's kind of is and kind of not, but it is. If you gave this to a child, I wouldn't, it wouldn't be offensive. There's nothing in there that is just really crazy, but it was a fun read, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I don't know if there's going to be any more after this, but it is what it is. So that is the end of the books for me.
Alrighty, so I guess we're up to clicks of the week. I think I've got a pretty surprising click of the week this week.
Do it.
I'm going to go with Black Panther #7.
That is surprising because, yeah, you've been kind of
not rough on this, but just kind of like, what are we doing here? Yeah,
Yeah. Which, yeah, I mean, I can see it. It's a good pick. For myself, I think I'm actually going to go with Sasquatch Detective Special #1.
Okay. I guess I'm going to have to pick that one up.
It was amusing. It was quite amusing to me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think TimDog98 or PCN_Dirt got back to me.
Yeah, they're still in their various modes of things, so
yeah,
they did not have a chance to. But nevertheless, news.
All right. Oh wait, no, we're gonna do our first ad. We have to get our ads we have to get our ads in. We have to pay the bills. Yes. So our first ad is for Funko, Fun at First Sight, your home for exclusive collectibles, apparel, and brand merchandise. Now, for the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles, you can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. You want those Funko world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, Funko t-shirts, hats, or socks, or custom DIY pop figures, art books, or skateboards. You can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase of those things when shopping at Funko by going to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount, and that's going to help keep our show free for you. That is Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we start off as we do every week with not the Red Dead Redemption, but the cinematic news of the week. And guess what, folks? You've been waiting for it. It finally came. Marvel's Avengers 4 is officially called Avengers Endgame. Receives earlier release date. So yeah, the trailer came out for the Avengers #4. We got the date. We got the trailer. We also got the name, and I don't know. Some people are not liking the name. I'm like, it is what it is.
What do you want it to be? Yeah,
I
don't, but not you specifically. I've met them before.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what people were expecting, but I'm like, it's probably as good a name as any. I don't know.
I mean, it has double, triple, or at least multiple meanings.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, there's even a treatment of the title that is done up in purple and gold, aka Thanos' colors.
Mm-hmm. So, there's definitely various purposes for naming this Avengers movie that. So,
yeah. If you haven't seen the trailer, and there's a couple other things that I didn't put in the lineup about it, but yeah, it's out there. If you haven't seen it by now, what are you doing? April 20th.
Seriously.
Is the date we have as opposed to May 3rd, which is normally what they would have done a movie like that on. So I don't know why they moved it up.
They moved it up a week, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. They wanted to get it a week earlier.
Who knows?
Get it closer to Captain Marvel. I don't know.
I was about to say, actually, it might be the case because I want to say, doesn't that actually come out in May? Regardless, yeah, there was a reason.
March.
Okay.
Captain Marvel comes out in March.
Okay, so then that doesn't make that much more sense then. Regardless, it is what it is.
They just want it out a week earlier for whatever.
I don't know. I can't imagine what would be coming out unless there was like a DC movie coming out around the time when they were moving out of the way, which I doubt.
No, my guess is probably just to give it more room to breathe afterwards.
Yeah, well, they could have given Captain Marvel more time to breathe if they
They
left.
did actually. They moved. Didn't they move Captain Marvel up as well? I think it was originally April. They moved it into March.
Not that I remember, but you're probably right. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's
Well,
coming.
speaking of Captain Marvel, so fans, I love the international, the whatchamacallit, what the studios are saving for reveals at international Comic Cons, not just the U.S. Comic Cons. Fans attending the Marvel Studios panel at the Comic Con Experience 2018 convention in Brazil actually got a lot of star-studded panels, and they got an exclusive trailer of the Captain Marvel movie.
Hold on, you didn't say that right.
What's that?
Where is it being held?
Brazil.
No, you didn't say it. You just said it like Toretto. Brazil.
This is Brazil. You're a long way from home, cop. Oh gosh.
I just had to bring it up because this is like, okay, yeah. Anyway. So yeah, so they apparently this this thing has so another scene, a clip that that the one we got didn't have. So
there you go.
Back to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse's visuals are so unique. Sony is literally trying to patent the look. This is not that much of a surprise, but it is also a thing.
Okay.
And actually, again, I'll take this one while we're at it. So yeah, we mentioned this earlier. So there's
without spoiling anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into it. Yeah. So yeah, there's if you've seen Spider-Verse by now, then of course you've seen a bunch of Easter eggs, and there's been a couple of our articles that have a number of Easter eggs in them. This one just happens to be one of them. And of course, like we said earlier, there is a end of credit scene, and there's an article that explains that in Into the Spider-Verse. So you stick around, and check it out.
Yep.
I will say this without getting into spoilers. How would you think of it?
I enjoyed it, but it's definitely an insider thing, because if you're of a certain vintage, you're not going to get it, or if you're not familiar with both the animation history of Spider-Man and the 90s comic book history of Spider-Man, you're not going to get it at all.
And who played the let's say the main focus of that credit scene?
Exactly.
Which was a surprise.
Exactly. So, that one was kind of tough to, I was talking about the family that was sitting in front of me. I actually overheard the daughter trying to explain to mom what the post-credit scene was.
Nice.
I feel bad. I'm like, I didn't want to jump in and be like, well, it's this character and based off of this entry.
How did she do? Did she do all right?
What's that?
Did she do all right trying to explain?
Yeah, I mean, in very basic terms.
Sure.
Very basic terms.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm saying that's good to see. It was like, yeah, it was like people say what they want about women not getting into comics and which is BS and all that kind of stuff. So it's good that was the case. Regardless, end credit scene, check it. So
all right, next up, Charlie Cox, the actor who played Matt Murdock and Daredevil in the Netflix show, opens up about the Daredevil cancellation. So it turns out that he was shocked by it, and he spoke with Entertainment Weekly and said that he's not ready to say goodbye to Matt Murdock. My understanding, I don't know if you have another story after this, is that
when it was canceled, but he's I mean, the character is going to live on, so it's going to be in what fashion we don't know, but yeah, it sounds like Marvel has plans to continue the character in some kind of way,
right? But contractually, they can't use Charlie Cox to do it because of some aspect of the Netflix contract. So that was my understanding. At least I haven't obviously read the contract, but I did see a story about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Get on that, legal.
They don't make their contracts, public.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I remember seeing anything about that part. There might be something in this article about it, but regardless, that's the thing. Marvel's The Punisher season 2 premieres in January. 13 episodes.
Right, so it's going to be a grand opening, grand closing type of thing, but not for the reasons that Chris Rock gives. It's definitely going to be, premiere. Oh, it's canceled.
Yeah. At this point, like I said, which is why I kind of chuckled when he said it was a surprise. I'm like, well, at this point, it's not so much of a surprise to us. And I know there was an article out there saying, like, yeah, definitely, Daredevil was still kind of had a big draw in season 2, which I think we may have talked about that before.
Yep.
I don't know if this article doesn't say what date, but it just says January. So.
Yeah, I don't think you have his exact date. I think all I remember seeing was the month.
Yeah, so there you go. Next month, you got Punisher to look forward to. I know there are people drooling over that. Excuse me. Speaking of the Netflix,
this is mine. Deborah Ann Woll is launching her own Dungeons and Dragons podcast, right?
That's a show.
Oh, it's a TV show. Nice.
Well, it's not a TV show. It is a streaming show.
Oh, a streaming show.
If I'm not mistaken, yes. Because I think, is it going to be on Geek and Sundry? Yeah, so it's going to be weekly episodes starting February on Alpha, which is basically Geek and Sundry and a couple other things. So it is and I'm sure it'll be on Twitch also, because I know Geek and Sundry puts a lot of their stuff on Twitch. So basically, yes. So I remember seeing reports that she's actually gotten into Dungeons and Dragons pretty decently, or actually what already was since she was in True Blood, maybe possibly, because I remember her talking about it before. Regardless, so she's gonna have a show where she's gonna DM. That's the person who
and that's not direct message people.
That is correct. That is the dungeon master, and she will be the one who's running the game. If you're not a Dungeons and Dragons fan, she will be running the game and guiding the story, basically. And the show will be called Relics and Rarities. Again, like I said, it's going to be on the Geek and Sundry and the Alpha streaming service channel. So look forward to that in February. And apparently it includes celebrity players such as Tommy Walker, who also was in Daredevil, I guess, Julia Dennis, Jasmine Bullar, and Xander Jenneret. I don't know none of those people. So look out for that if you're a fan of Baby Vamp, aka Karen Page.
Okay. You got next.
Yep. Oh shoot. Let me get my book. Anyway, I was about to play some KRS-One. Star Wars series The Mandalorian taps Werner Herzog for undisclosed role. Apparently Giancarlo Esposito, Carl Weathers, and others are also and have joined the cast, which, man, that's a list.
Certainly is.
Yeah.
All righty. Next up, Warner Brothers is developing a Plastic Man movie. Okay.
Yes. Hot on the heels of that 6-issue miniseries from that they just put out in DC. Actually, I don't know how long it was. Worth noting, there was those of a certain finish know there was a Plastic Man cartoon back in the day, with him and Penny and Baby Plaz and Hula. You may or may not. They don't have that on DC Universe, though, sadly. They should get that on there. And, of course, Plastic Man's been on other shows. But, yeah, don't ask me, folks, why are they doing that? I don't. Exactly. Although, one would make a case for Plastic Man would be DC's Deadpool.
Yeah, but they've never treated him like that. Like, Marvel's Deadpool... once he left the X books and kind of went off on his own, had a shtick, and it's that shtick, that third breaking of the fourth wall, actually, that they really adapted and really made a driving force of the movie.
Mm-hmm. But that said, Plastic Man was doing this back in the 70s, so minus the fourth wall. Well, actually, there might have been some fourth wall breaking in the comic.
Right, but without that, it's kind of tough to see him as DC's Deadpool. But I see what you mean. I definitely know what you mean. More of like a comedic take on superheroing.
Yes.
Alrighty. Next up, Victor Zsasz has been cast for Birds of Prey. So,
Yeah, that movie is still. Matter of fact, we also found out the name of that movie, which is long as I don't know what. It's called Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. So and you already know Margot Robbie is a part of it, and so I guess that's the partial driving force behind that. But that's a long name.
Okay.
February 7th, 2020 is the release date, and Victor Zsasz is going to be played by Chris Messina, who's I've seen that name before. I feel like I probably know where he's in, but whatever. Next up, Elseworlds. Did you see this? Did you watch or you not watching the Arrowverse stuff?
Although I did see, I think the last 10 minutes of it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there's news coming out of that on that front too. But so Elseworlds just answered a series-long Flash mystery, which ends that how do people go to the bathroom in the pipeline? Because so if you didn't know, in the Flash series, they throw people in the jail in their collider jail / thing, but you never see anything outside of a bed, much less actually you only see 4 walls most times. But apparently, yeah, they showed how people go to the bathroom.
Is there a poop force involved? Because you know how the Flash is all about these forces.
No, it's actually it's a technical reason. I mean, it's a technical.
All right.
It's
God forbid they use some stuff from the comics, like force.
Nah, they
force, poop in the P force.
Nah, just good old fashioned technology. I haven't seen the episode I haven't seen any of the Elseworlds stuff yet, so I don't know how they even get on that subject, but hey, it's a thing. Actually, I'll take this next one. And in that Elseworlds hints Diggle is spoiler on Earth 90. So this is something that has actually come up in the past on Arrow, because there was some speculation that John Diggle, the character of John Diggle, could have possibly been a version of John Stewart, aka the Green Lantern. And apparently in Elseworlds, I guess he shows up, or it is either alluded to, or he shows up as a version of a Green Lantern, as that has actually been alluded to previously a few seasons ago. So that's kind of cool. I would have actually, if the canon was the fact that he had ended up being Green Lantern, I would have loved that. Like end of a show proper, but yeah, it is what it is.
You can take the next one too.
Sure. Crisis on Infinite Earths coming to DC CW in 2019. So the next crossover is going to be coming off of Elseworlds, which Elseworlds pretty much set up at the end of it.
Right.
Into Infinite Earths. And the brand manager for the Arrowverse, Stephen Amell, was apparently the one who tweeted about it.
Right. I was about to say, I did see a joke about how, was it the Flash who joked? I hope this doesn't become a yearly thing. And I'm like, oh, ha ha.
I feel like that was a joke from one of the first crossovers. If they just finally did that joke, that's sad.
How many have they done? They've done a couple years now, right?
This is like the 4th one.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but not with Supergirl.
Right. This is like
right. It was between the Flash and Supergirl, I think.
But this one is right. Well, so because they didn't start doing it up until like season 2, maybe. Yeah, season 2 of Flash. Well, actually, if you think about it, the Flash kind of started off because he was on Arrow in the first place, so that was kind of, and then
but in terms of
big crossover didn't start until like Legends, I think, happened.
Right, but in terms of Supergirl's involvement, I think,
and yeah, when they brought her over, that was like one of the last 2. So this is her second one.
Right. So that's probably why the joke still landed somewhat.
Probably.
Okay. Hold on. So I've got the next one. Legends of Tomorrow just broke the timeline, and the consequence is bonkers. So another DC show I don't watch just broke their timeline, which doesn't make me want to watch it anymore. Apparently Constantine is in this show, and there's some stuff going on in the timeline.
Yes, and some puppetry is involved in this episode, from what I understand.
Okay.
So yeah, it's I don't know. I'll tell pretty amusing, but that shows because I like Legends of Tomorrow because it's just silly.
Okay,
that's just me. Anyway, Mark Hamill talks about Batman the Animated Series, quote unquote, lost episode. So I saw this come up on Twitter when it happened. And apparently there's an episode that hadn't been shown that and somebody tweeted to Mark Hamill about, I guess. Or excuse me, yeah, it's the Sci-Fi Museum tweeted about a lost episode that was created for the Sega CD of all things. That was written by Paul Dini, and if you're watching the video, you can see the tweet right now. And Mark Hamill, pardon me, I'm so sorry, ginger ale, y'all, responds to the tweet, says, "Yowza, yowza, ladies and germs, a quote unquote lost Batman episode," and he talks about it a little bit. He says he basically says he remembers recording it, but he doesn't remember ever seeing it. So, and if you didn't know, the Sega CD was basically a CD drive for the Sega Genesis, a certain vintage. I never had one.
No, never did.
Yeah, I think I had the 32X, but that's a whole nother story.
Didn't have any Segas. All right. So speaking of character actors that people of us vintage are going to recognize, unless you are an avid fan of Sharknado.
Yes.
Ian Ziering has joined the cast of Swamp Thing as fan favorite. That is, should be in quotes, DC hero Blue Devil.
One joke for another, folks. Actually, I don't know. My Blue Devil dealings, I don't know if he was much of a joke or not. I don't know. I don't know too much about the character. But yeah, Ian Ziering, trying to get that DC money, and that his other cash crop is going. Let me stop. So yeah, he'll play Daniel Cassidy, a stuntman who becomes Blue Devil. You know anything about Blue Devil?
Nope.
Carries
a trident. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And there's been a couple of devils in the DC proper. So anyway, DC Universe's Stargirl adds Lou Ferrigno Jr. as founding JSA member.
Okay.
So wait. Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, wait, is this not actual Lou Ferrigno? So it's not. It is his son.
It's his son, yeah.
Yes. And so who knew? Because when I read this, I thought it was like, okay, no, they got Lou Ferrigno to play to play Iron Man. That makes some sort of sense. And actually, apparently, Lou Ferrigno's been hospitalized after a pneumonia shot.
Yeah, that was a bad story. You know, that was literally, you know, a cautionary tale for anyone going in for any sort of shots.
Yeah,
that's pretty not cool. But he should be recovered.
Right. Moving right along.
All right, so I'll take.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, so again, DC Universe's Stargirl has recruited a Walking Dead alum to play Ted Grant, also known as Wildcat.
Yes. Brian Staff. I don't know who that is.
Got me.
Yeah. So apparently he was in The Purge. I guess I'm assuming the TV show, not the movie, or maybe the movie. Doesn't matter. Fowler and several episodes of Walking Dead. Moving right along. The CW is developing an adaptation of Valiant's Dr. Mirage. Don't know much about this character, much less Valiant universe, but guess what? Another comic book going to movie. Going to small screen.
Next up, Family Guy eulogized Carrie Fisher's character in this past Sunday's episode of the show.
Yeah, so apparently she played Peter's supervisor on the show. I didn't know because I hadn't watched Family Guy in eons. I didn't even know it was still on. But yeah, apparently it was a nice eulogy in one that excuse me, one that brought up her other more notable series.
Sure.
Yeah. A new trailer for Star Trek Discovery ups the stakes for season 2. I hadn't watched it actually. I hadn't watched any of season 1 yet, but yeah, apparently they're going all out. So Michelle Yeoh's going to be back. Section 31's going to be thrown in, and something about the Red Angel. I have no idea what that part means, but the rest of that sounds awesome.
Speaking of Star Trek Discovery, season 2 adds an extra episode, so it's going to have one more episode than it was previously announced.
Yes, instead of 13, it'll be 14. So I don't know. Sure.
Okay.
Kelly Sue DeConnick and Matt Fraction signed deal with Legendary TV. So good on them. So their company, Milk-Fed Criminals Masterminds, has signed a 2-year deal with Legendary to adapt both their creator-owned comics and produce original programming for broadcast TV. Worth noting, they had a hand in that Emerald City, I guess, miniseries that was on NBC like last year or something like that. So not their first dealings in TV. So, and I would sort of imagine what Bitch Planet and Sex Criminals are now going to get shows.
Okay.
Oh, and probably Odyssey. Yeah. So,
right.
Deadly. Which I know they have been working on that for the last couple of years, from what I remember going to their talks at Heroes Con. So good on them. Next.
All right, so we're going to transition over to comic book news.
Yep.
Marvel has greenlit a new Darth Vader comic after killing the Chuck Wendig written version very recently.
Yeah, it was dark times for the Empire.
Mm.
Boom, boom. So yeah, apparently this will shed. It's another Vader series. We already got one good one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but hey, Marvel's, Disney's Marvel's getting that money.
Speaking of trying to get that money.
Yeah, right. Marvel plans to destroy, and speaking of actually what I said earlier when we started talking about events, Marvel plans to destroy and rewrite its own history in March. Starting with the Fantastic Four.
And continuing with.
Yes, and continuing with Spider-Man. So the phrase "the Marvel Universe is destroyed" accompanied the image, which begs the kind of question: who really gave the Fantastic Four their powers? Boy, wouldn't that have been something for just a what if?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the thing. The Marvel history
is another Marvel mini-sized event.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get more details on this, but it's we're definitely dealing with, at least in my mind, and according to my wallet, a bit of Boy Who Cried Wolf too many times.
Agreed. And going on with that, the Marvel is also going to do the same with Spider-Man's history,
right?
Including going back to Spider-Man No More, and I guess talk about who brought him back in the game or something. I don't know. From what I saw, yeah, who brought the Amazing Spider-Man back after Spider No More? Like, does it really matter? I guess.
Next up, Marvel plans on a miniseries that's going to retell Spider-Man's life story in real time. So starting in 62 or 63, yes, and going up until an unspecified time.
I feel like there's a DC analog to this, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Where they did something like this in DC, one of the DC events. Like, and I keep thinking All-Star Superman, but that's totally not it. Regardless,
no, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, good. Was
it Final Frontier? There's a Darwin Cook thing.
Maybe, but I don't know. I vaguely remember that much off of that one. I know I read it, and either way, I feel like there was an analog there that's along with this. I'm sure someone will come along with it. Regardless, and I feel like they've done this in Marvel before. Now that I think about it, but it's neither here nor there because floating history and whatever stuff they don't have on Marvel Universe. So apparently, Chip Zdarsky is going to be doing this. I like this cover kind of. So it's starting with the Vietnam War. Which Peter wasn't even there, which is why I'm saying I know Marvel did something similar to this, because then they do like a not battle lines, but it did something where it's like, well, what if the history was changed by this type of situation or something. So I feel like the similar things has been done we'll see what comes out of that. Oh wait, yeah. So Cosmic Ghost Rider is the one is going to apparently be the one that's going to destroy the Marvel history. So I guess
he's going to do everything. Now, we talk about some characters getting overexposed. I've pretty much had enough of Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Deadpool is still overexposed, and he's killed pretty much everybody at this point, and I think they're still doing those stupid things.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cosmic Ghost Rider, that's a thing now. Next up, Marvel announces all-female team series, and I saw this come off of Twitter. So Gail Simone is writing a 5-issue limited series called Domino Hot Shots, and it is of course going to be starred by Domino and her team of ladies, but with an addition of apparently. So she already had a group with Outlaw and Diamondback. Yes, that Diamondback, not the other Diamondback. No one knows who I'm even talking about.
No.
But apparently joining the group is going to be Black Cat, who I thought was Silver Sable for a hot second. Mm-hmm. Black Widow, and a couple other people. And I don't know. I think one, maybe two of these people are possibly new. So that'll be cool. That Domino series is actually not bad. So I will check this out. And it's being done by the same creative team as Domino, which is Gail Simone and Dave Baldion. So there you go. Next
up, Conan the Barbarian is actually going to join the comic book Avengers in March. So this is part of the Avengers No Road Home, which is a sequel to Avengers No Surrender. And the Scarlet Witch is going to go back to go into the Hyborian age, and we all know that that's where Conan lives. So,
and boy, will that be fun, because surely nothing will happen when Scarlet Witch is involved with anyone's history.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if Voyager is going to come back, because wasn't she a part of that No Surrender thing?
I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently the 6th issue will introduce Conan, will be done by Al Ewing, Mark Waid. Oh wait, no, just the basic team. Al Ewing, Mark Waid, Jim Zub, and Sean Isaac, and will be next February for the weekly series, but that issue in particular is going to be March 20th. And I don't think it's probably not the first time Conan's been has crossed over into the Marvel universe, because when they had the license at first, I think there was some what-ifs and some other stuff, which this article says. So I vaguely remember that stuff. So some sad news. Well, some good news and some bad news, actually. I don't know if you saw this. Kamala Khan's creator is stepping away from Miss Marvel. That's the bad news. The good news is it's going to be taken up by one Saladin Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
So, while I am absolutely going to miss G. Willow Wilson writing Kamala, because she's the one that brought us to the table, I feel like it's probably going to be in good hands.
Right, and it definitely seems like G. Willow Wilson, was maybe tidying up the book a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
To get it to, not tying up every loose end, but definitely getting it to a point where someone can take the book over, and in this case, relaunch it.
Right. So she like Latour and Rika Renzi now with Spider-Gwen was able to, as she said herself in this article, I believe, was able to finish her story on her own terms.
Right.
Sounds like what she's doing. So and now the Saladin Ahmed is going to take it in another direction. Does it say when? Because I don't think this came off of solicitors, because this just happened like a day or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really say, but it's going to be called The Magnificent Miss Marvel, and it's probably going to be sometime next year.
That works.
Yeah, that works. So. And yeah, if Saladin Ahmed is a name you've heard of, he's doing the new Miles Morales book. Also, he did that Black Bolt book that I know Agent 7 liked, that I have not finished, and he's also doing Exiles Now, who also actually had an older version of Kamala Khan in it.
Right.
recently. So yeah, good and bad news on that one. Next up,
Marvel's Strike Force video game is adding Miles Morales to the roster.
yeah, in fact, already has, because the event that is bringing him in just started. If you're playing that game, just started a day or two as of this recording. So if you can get all the bits to get Miles Morales, you can add him to your team. Actually, looks pretty cool. So next up, McFarlane Spawn coming to Mortal Kombat number 11. So yes, there's another. Actually, that's not the 11th Mortal Kombat, but that's just the name of it. Regardless, because there's more than that. Regardless, Spawn.
I remember when Spawn came to Tekken.
Yes, and he was also in
Not Tekken, Soul Calibur.
Yes, actually, he might have been in Tekken.
Oh, I could be. I was about to say, I know I remember in that style game.
Definitely was in Soul Calibur, and I feel like he has been in another fighting game. I know he was in like Marvel vs. Capcom, one of those iterations. But yeah, and I feel like he's been in Mortal Kombat before, but maybe not.
Mortal Kombat.
But yeah, there's a new Mortal Kombat coming. That trailer came out during the Game Awards last week. We just found this out yesterday or today or something. So I mean, Spawn, for that franchise, sure, why not? It fits better than he did in Soul Calibur, that's for sure. So next up,
Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips have renewed their exclusive deal with Image Comics, so they're going to be putting out their books through the Image imprint.
Yeah, and those who are watching the video can also see this nice bit of splash for Bitterroot. I'm just putting that out there. It had nothing to do with the article in itself. So yeah, go Brubaker and Phillips. I don't think I've read any of their stuff.
No Criminal or anything like that?
I don't think so, no. Because in the one book I felt like I remember reading was not them.
Okay.
But I think it was Brubaker. Was it Velvet Brubaker? I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah. So I read Brubaker, but I don't think I read him and Sean Phillips, because that definitely wasn't Sean Phillips on the art. Anyway, so congrats to them. Mike Mignola shares his script for a new Hellboy Winter Special comic, which I think is out this week. So yeah, this is just some art and stuff talking about the Winter Special that is out. So cool.
Alrighty. Next up, discover the dangerous world of journalism. Bury the lead. So it's a new original graphic novel from New York Times bestselling author Gabby Dunn and artist Claire Rowe. This is not all the President's Men, because that was pretty dangerous, to be honest. But
yet timely.
Yes. Well, all this stuff, anything that involves a lot of the current events.
This one is no exception. This is absolutely going to be timely.
Yep.
So yeah. But apparently it says here, 21-year-old Madison Jackson's already started with the college newspaper. She nabs a coveted night internship with the Boston Premier newspaper. And I guess shenanigans started to happen after that, so I'm not going to go into the whole thing on that. I don't know. It might be kind of interesting.
Yep, the book is called Bury the Lead.
And that's Lede. So, because the paper's called the Boston Lead. Ha-ha! Also, well, I'm not sure if it's good or bad news. But Joseph Illich lead exits Valiant Entertainment. In fact, I know there was a write-up in a Hollywood Reporter about his leaving, and I think may hint to what he's going to be doing next. I'm not sure. But yeah, so Joseph Illich has been around these parts. He started the Catalyst Prime line for Lion Forge, then moved on to do Valiant, where he was doing where he was top man over there. And now he's just leaving Valiant to go on to do whatever it is. He's a mover. What can I say? The man's been doing some things. Been around for a while. But on that note, I'll take this next one. Valiant has gone on to promote Robert Myers to senior editorial director in Mr. Ellis's stead. So he's been with the company for a good while, and I guess got the title honestly.
Cool. All right, next up. So you covered the Valiant promotion, right?
Yup.
All right. Legendary gets lost in space.
Yeah, there was an article from Sci-Fi, which had a couple of bits of news that we already talked about. But the last bit of news was that, which I feel like we may or may not have talked about this before, but Legendary Comics, who I guess is an offshoot of Legendary Pictures, apparently got into the comics game and started doing some comics a while back. You can go to their site and check out a whole bunch of stuff. I think there was an article from back in July that talked about this particular thing, about the Lost in Space Netflix series, doing a comic off of that, or a graphic novel off of that, and that's what this is.
Okay.
So it's called Lost in Space: Countdown to Danger, and we'll fill in the backstories for some of the characters while following the space family Robinson on adventures that won't be seen on the small film. So I guess this is taking place somewhere around the Netflix series, not necessarily to it.
Okay.
Brian Buccellato, Richard Denick, and Zed was on the creative team of that. So, and I think it's out now. So, anyway, look at the size of that thing. Massive news. Star Wars book reveals Palpatine's volcanic throne room. Boba Fett's schematics. So this is apparently a new Star Wars archive book called the Star Wars Archives 1977-1983. It is a 604-page coffee table book, providing fans with behind-the-scenes photos, stills, interviews, script pages, originals, design sketches, a bunch of stuff from Star Wars. Not counting the horrible holiday special. Or maybe something in there about it. Who knows?
Next up, Magic the Gathering burns up your holiday reading with 2 new book releases. One is a comic that came out, I believe, this week, and a novella that also came out recently. And the story is set within the vast multiverse that serves as the source of lore for the popular trading card game, are all set to dominate anytime you aren't spending wrapping presents or slinging spells. Okay.
Shout out to Matt Wang and BDM. I believe that novella is free. Yes. Free of cost to readers. I'm not sure where you would find it though. But regardless, it's probably on their website. So, it's on his website. Regardless, it's out there. You can go look at it. It's called Children of the Nameless by Brandon Sanderson. And Magic the Gathering Shonda is out there on wherever you buy comic books. I think actually Dirt did a review on it on Pop Culture Network if you wanted to go check that out.
Okay.
Excuse me. Top Cow Talent Hunt winners take on Ares 9 Darkness. And this is just a preview for that. So every year, Top Cow does a talent hunt. They put some stuff, and here's the fruits of that labor. So Brendan Hogden, Ballas, it's a couple of people. I'm not going to go through all these names. Flex their creative muscle for this one shot. So I believe that may be out now. You can go check that out.
All right. Next up, Soap Studios announces DC TV, a reverse Flash action figure. It's a 1/12 scale.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching the video, you can see some shots from it. Looks good. Okay. Sad news. John Ridley's other history of the DC Universe delayed indefinitely. And as someone pointed out, and I can't remember who it was on Twitter, this is kind of what happens when you try to get people who don't work in the industry to, working on other people's time. Sometimes they can commit to stuff. Sometimes they can't. John, Ridley, you know him from, 12 Years a Slave?
Mm-hmm.
And other things. Regardless, I guess he couldn't do it. So because this wasn't the first time that it's been pushed back. So I guess when we were doing now. So somebody also made the remark that was like, yeah, imagine they could have gotten somebody who was actually working in the comic book comic book industry that could have done something similar. That time. I believe that was Sherilyn Eaton who said that, who on Twitter. Don't want to give credit. Also, a little bit of bad news. I'll just go ahead and take this while we're at and get the last one. Bordertown art team departs, citing public allegations against writers. So apparently, the artists Ramon Villalobos and colorist Tamara Bonvillain have both left the DC Vertical book, which is a shame. It was a good book because Eric Esquivel, the writer, has had some allegations of sexual impropriety, sexual assault, whatever you want to call it. And DC, I don't think DC still has yet to put out an actual statement on it just yet. But apparently we did see something in our back channel about the fact that issues 5 and 6 are just been outright canceled and not coming out at all because of what's going on. So that is also kind of possibly telling.
Yeah.
But stay tuned as we get more news on that, should some come up. All right. Last but not least,
we'll try to end the news on a good note. The Schomburg Center here in New York City, it's the Center for Research in Black Culture, invites comic book fans of all ages to participate in its 7th annual Black Comic Book Festival. It's going to be held on Friday, January 18th from 12 to 7:30 p.m. and on Saturday, January 19th from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The full program is going to be announced at a later date, and registration for both days is free and is open to the public.
But you went last year, right?
No, but I have been up to the Schomburg Center before to do research, so it's a great place to go actually do research, and it's pretty cool.
And apparently, I did not know this, but this article from them says that it was created by Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez,
right?
Writer and creator of Kenya.
Yeah, Boring Kenya.
Yes,
that's how it's pronounced. He actually told me that himself.
Okay,
it sounds like Boring Kenya.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
yeah.
Seriously, like he was. I literally looked at him, questioning, this gentleman who obviously speaks this language, if not natively, fluently, and I'm like, are you serious?
I mean, look, hey, I've actually have said it both ways, and I'm not sure, and I'm not a native Spanish speaker, so I wouldn't know.
Right, boring.
I just hate to screw it up.
I probably stressed the boring and the Kenya part a little too hard,
and I think I probably have to, and as was just thinking. But regardless, if you're in the New York area, that is a thing that's going to happen early next year. You can go check it out because I hear good things about it.
Sounds like fun. Alrighty, so we've come to the end of the news, and we have our last ad read for the night. And our last ad read for the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. Doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through cspn.us. Do it today.
And on that note, folks, we are at another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. We're going to get out of here, so I'm going to try to get as brief as I can. We will be back, I think, next week.
Think so.
So for myself, Roddycat at Roddycat on Twitter, and Instagram, and CB Caps, News Nerds Need on Twitter, all of that. That's me. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_Dirt on Twitter. Comic book. Sorry, nope, that's not him. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and INeedComics.com. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. The Click Nation on Twitter. The KLIQ NATION. I think I forgot to say that one at the top. CB Cron on Twitter and the Comic Book Resources. Go check out his stuff. We will be back next week. Thank you for coming out, and we love y'all, or we love some of y'all. Some of y'all we kind of deal with. Go out there and get you some wine. Have a good holiday. If we don't talk to you, but we will before the holiday. End of the year stuff coming up soon. We'll tell you after the end of the year. Hopefully, we will get Tim and Dirt back for the proceedings. I know that this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and we are out.
Peace. One.
Whoops.